the dark tales of Bobby Mackey's and the Conjuring House. Today we're diving into the chilling tales of the history of Bobby Mackey's and the Conjuring House, two of the most iconic locations to date. And this has been highly requested by all of you for me to talk about. So here we are. Welcome, brave souls, to another haunting chapter of Ghost Girl Diaries, where the supernatural awaits, transmitting from the other side, where paranormal meets glamour. I'm your host this evening, Crystal Leandra, the Queen of the Dead, a paranormal filmmaker and investigator, and the glam behind the ghost hunt. Here we dive into spine-chilling hauntings, explore the unknown, and uncover the secrets across the most haunted locations in the world. Whether you're a believer or a skeptic, you're in for a thrill. So grab your EMF meter, your crystals, and your cross, because things are about to get supernatural with a little bit of glam. Let's get haunted. This is Ghost Girl Diaries. These two locations have captivated the paranormal community for decades, from ghost adventures investigating Bobby Mackey's all the way back to when the Warrens investigated the Conjuring House. These locations are so popular, not just because of, the media surrounding them, but also because of the drama and the scandals. Let's be honest. So grab your EMF meters, grab some coffee or some tea, because it's about to be piping hot. Even the ghosts agree. Heat on. Let's talk about some housekeeping for a minute. I've been back officially to the podcast for a couple of weeks. It's been a good few weeks. I had to definitely work out some kinks, The first week shooting the podcast back, I was very nervous. I feel like I was a fish out of water. I haven't really done anything formal for a very long time. And I was uncomfortable. I was very forgetful. I was having to access my notes constantly, definitely overthinking it. The second week, I definitely had some technical difficulties. I was wearing a necklace, and this microphone, it's a wireless mic. I have all new equipment, and it's very sensitive. And my necklace kept dinging the microphone. But I actually got paranormal activity at the end of the second episode, so I couldn't reshoot it. And I was like, okay, we're just going to pick this up and make it a lesson. And I've had really amazing feedback from all of you guys. And the channel, I'm happy to admit, over the past 30 days, we have gotten over 500 new subscribers. I don't think you know how hard it is to get subscribers on YouTube. Okay, it's very hard. And, having my fall of my old channel, we don't need to go over that because it's bad energy, but, making the brave move to sort of merge my worlds together of makeup and fashion and paranormal, and now it's working. I'm just I'm very humbled and thank you. The overall channel is actually about to hit 400,000 views total, thanks to you guys. So I'm very happy to be back. I definitely haven't been perfect. These last few podcasts, I had some hiccups, and I had a lot of dreams from my spirit team saying, it's not going to be perfect the first few rounds, but you have to just post it and not be afraid and keep going. And I'm a perfectionist. And I think it's hard for me being in film or going into film professionally. When I'm working for the studio, I have a pre-production team and a production team. I was a field producer, which means, I was involved with location scouting, and I'm on location with the crew, and post-production is a whole nother thing. I'm by myself with YouTube. I am one of one. Eventually, I would like to hire a post-production crew. Right now, that's not feasible. So I'm doing everything on my own. So right now, for one 30-minute podcast, it's taking me somewhere between 6 to 10 hours to film, pre-production, edit it, all that stuff. It's a lot of work. I think I'm going to get faster as time goes. I'm just a little rusty. I'm really trying to create an environment here, two environments. I have a lot of people that say they listen to the podcast more than once sometimes, especially when I'm talking about the spiritual side and I'm teaching you guys these spiritual lessons from my guides and spirit team. So I want to create an environment for the podcast alone. So if you're listening to it on Spotify and you're on your way to work, or you want to listen to it again after work, and I also want to create an environment where you can watch me at home. I want to create this, series, episodically speaking, where, the biggest concern or frustration I hear from the paranormal community is there's not enough paranormal shows. And although I am not signed to a production company, you can still stream me through YouTube on your television at home. And I've noticed there's a lot of big YouTubers, their fan bases do that. They will be like, oh, it's Thursday night. It's time for Ghost Girl Diaries, and they're going to put it on their big TV and they're going to get popcorn and they're going to set the mood and they're going to put lights up and their friends are going to come over and sometimes they have wine and, charcuterie boards. I want to create this as an experience, not only on the podcast and audio alone, but also an experience on TV. And if you can't bring me home to something like the Travel Channel, well, you can definitely come to my YouTube channel and watch me there. I want to create that experience for you. So it's been great. The first few weeks I had some hiccups. I've had some people give me some negative feedback. And, once again, I'm not going to say I'm perfect. I've never been a perfect human. I'm throwing this huge production on completely 100% solo by myself. And I think considering I'm yeeting myself back into YouTube, considering the success that I've had so far, I'm pretty proud. So I just want to shout out to you guys because especially my OGs. Some of you have bounced around with me for a long time and you've been watching me since 2015 and I love you guys. And I know it's been crazy, not only with life changes, but I went to Twitch for a while and I've just changed and I'm really happy. I feel like I've really found the niche and I'm back at my hub. So it's going to be a really good one. Today, we are going to discuss there's a lot of drama that's currently going around with the Conjuring House and Bobby Mackey's. And I've actually considered going to the Conjuring House, even if I can't go inside. I'm actually flying to New England in January. I'll be there with Kat for a week or a week and a half. She's going to go with me. I'm flying into Boston and we're going to go look at properties. And that's going to be sort of my decision on if I'm deciding to go East Coast or not. So it's going to be, January is a big month for me. Kat and I have a list of haunted locations we're going to hit while I'm out there as well. And, there's been some drama surrounding both Bobby Mackey's and the Conjuring House. So a lot of you've asked me for your opinion. Crystal, give me your opinion on what you think's actually going on. So we're going to talk about it today. I do want to state a couple of things briefly. One, kindness is really easy. Especially since I've ascended and I went through such an ego death and destruction and a rebirth, when you've rooted into the 3D, like we all have, and it's really hard to sort of find your center, find your true self, find your higher self and attach yourself to your higher self. It is hard to do that. So once you've attached yourself to your higher self and you can kind of look down and you see the 3D world and how people interact and how societies are, and it changes your perspective. And, kindness is really easy to do. Empathy is really easy to do. And, we as a society are really fast to judge people. And I think that that's uncertain and unfair if there are mental health issues involved. I'm a huge advocate for mental health. I've publicly spoke about my ex having some severe mental health issues that I had to help him through. And I think that mocking and making fun of anyone with any sort of, mental health can still be considered a disability. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it's not there. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You wouldn't make fun of a person in a wheelchair the same way that you would someone with mental health just because you can't see it. It should be treated as such. So I guess I just want to start the conversation with that is have compassion, have empathy. And it's really easy to just keep your mouth shut sometimes when it's not your position to talk. I've noticed that there has been an influx on TikTok in the past couple of years where paranormal reporters have come out, and I don't have a lot of room to judge because I used to be that person. That was another problem I had on YouTube back in the day with the original paranormal channel is, I was getting a lot of views. I think one of my biggest view videos was Ryan Buell getting arrested for a DUI with PRS, Paranormal State. And people wanted to hear that content. And I was doing it because everyone was wanting it. It was also getting me views. But morally and ethically, I was not comfortable. I wasn't happy doing that. So I had to stop. I didn't want to be a paranormal news reporter. And now that I've ascended and now that I am connected to my higher self, you really see with your third eye that no one's perfect, right? Now, I'm not saying what Ryan Buell did was okay. You know, he was clearly having a mental health break as well. He was having a drug problem and he stole money from his fans. That was not appropriate. However, you know, no one's perfect at the end of the day. None of us are, you know, and nobody should be putting celebrities on pedestals either because, or public figures for that matter, because nobody's perfect. And I'm not a huge fan of the people coming out that are now these like paranormal reporters because it's just stirring the pot. And they think that they have, you know, a position to talk about people poorly. And you just never know what someone's going through. And that includes the woman that owns the Conjuring House. I also want to say something else. I just want to have you critically think. You know, when I do my podcast, sometimes when I'm getting really in depth, that I want you to put your thinking cap on. I want you to critically think about the things I say. And one of the things I want to say is this. I have always said there are 3 pieces to the paranormal community. To be successful in paranormal, there are 3 things that you must have. One is spirituality. You have to believe in some scenario. You know, people don't like to get religious per se when it comes to paranormal, although that's what our society has taught us that spirituality is. It is some sort of religion. So in order to be in this industry, you have to have some sort of belief system in the higher realms. You don't have to call it God. You can call it the universe. You can call it your guides. You can call it whatever you want. But if we are here proving that something exists beyond the veil, that we remain in energy, it's neither created nor destroyed when the end comes on this planet, then you have to believe in some sort of higher plane, right? That's one of the reasons I've always said I'm not trying to convince skeptics, because oftentimes I've learned that skeptics are not believers of God or the universe or even themselves. And if you don't even believe in yourself, how are you going to not mirror that to the outside world? Because remember, we are a mirror at the end of the day. That even comes with paranormal. I have never attracted dark things. I do not connect on their level ever. I have never connected with demonic activity. And I think it's because I'm a higher level being. I'm very connected to source. I always have been. I've told you guys I've gone in Bobby Mackey's in some of the darkest places trying to plug in and connect with darker things. And I cannot. Kat does. I cannot. So I think it's just a vibrational level. Whatever you're mirroring is what you're getting back. If you are a skeptic and you do not believe in God, a higher power, or yourself, how are you going to experience paranormal? You're not going to. So therefore, I am not going to try to convince you. That is up to you, and that is your path to open up your mind and believe that there could be a possibility of a realm of something outside that exists outside of you. So number 1 is spirituality. Number 2 is paranormal. And what I mean by that is ghost hunting. If you want to be successful in this industry, you need spirituality, some form of it, even if it's demons. And you also have to know what you're talking about as far as paranormal goes. And I'm not just saying I've had paranormal experiences. You need to be knowledgeable about paranormal equipment. You need to understand quantum physics. You need to study. You need to understand the realms that we're trying to interact with and why, to the best of your ability. If you're using a K2 meter instead of a tri-field meter or even a millimeter, then you have not done enough research, because K2 meters are trash. So please study up on that. And the third piece of understanding what makes you successful in paranormal is being business savvy. And unfortunately, 98% of the paranormal community does not have all 3 of those things to make them successful. And that's why we have seen such a hierarchy with certain people and other people fall very quickly and fast. You know, and even the business side could be that you understand how to run a business, you understand how to manage people, you understand film, and you understand how to manage a production set. It could mean that you understand how to negotiate contracts. If you are filming for paranormal, it could mean that you understand how to run a haunted museum. But you have to have that business aspect or a haunted location in order for it to be mastered. And we don't see that very much, unfortunately. And that's something I've been trying to teach the community really since my last channel, when I was preaching and trying to teach paranormal film. That was the whole goal of my first paranormal channel. It wasn't about paranormal drama. It wasn't about paranormal gossip. It wasn't about, a lot of people like, oh, Crystal would take Ghost Adventures episodes and she would just chop them into parts and break them up. And she would just like throw them on a conveyor belt and put them through the meat grinder. That was not the point. The point was to break down the episodes to teach you paranormal film so that you could visually understand when Ghost Adventures is doing this episode. You have to do the research. You have to talk to witnesses. You just have to have it all seamlessly flowing together. You have to be on set. You have to have camera mounts, unlike, poor little Dakota had issues. Like his was too vloggy and YouTube style. You have to think like a producer. I was trying to teach you guys because I do believe the industry is monopolized. I think that there's too many people on top and too many people on the bottom, and it shouldn't be that way. And the problem is basic education, understanding there are 3 sides to be successful in this industry: spirituality, business, and understanding paranormal. And it's very simple. And if people understood this, we would have more success. There is no need to cut each other down. There is something, I have a very tight-knit group of people that I trust in paranormal. A lot of people are like, Crystal, why don't you hang out more with the celebrities or make more friends even locally with paranormal groups? And unfortunately, the genre, the society of paranormal has taught each other that it is a dog-eat-dog industry, and that couldn't be further from the truth. And this is me once again connecting to source and my higher self, knowing that there is space for everyone. There is space for all of us. You do not have to cut other people down in order to be successful. Like I remember in Colorado before I moved, there was a group, we're not going to name names, but there was a large group in Colorado that claimed that they had certain jurisdiction over haunted locations. And you couldn't investigate at this cemetery unless you talked to that group. Did they own the damn cemetery? No, the city does. Like, it was just stupid. And that's that's my territory and not yours. Like, I can't stand it. Stop it. Start becoming friendly with each other. Start working together. Stop being against each other. It's not me versus you and you versus me. That is why the industry is so monopolized. Just people think if I cut Zach down and get him off of his pedestal, the rest of us will succeed. No, he's in his own bubble. He's doing his own thing. No, he's untouchable at this point. You need to worry about yourself, focus your energy on yourself, creating yourself, doing your own research and building yourself up. Tearing Zach down is not going to create more space. And it's not just him, it's other people, it's other creators. And I think this was just really important for me to say before we start talking about, Bobby Mackey's and the Conjuring House, because I have a lot of history in front of me right now that we're going to be going over, but I also have a lot of opinions. And, there's not a lot of strong females or women in paranormal, and I've always been opinionated, and I will always be opinionated. I really don't care if you agree with me or not, but I will say this. It costs $0.00 to be a effing decent human being. It doesn't cost you anything to be nice. So if that's something you have a problem with me saying, that's a whole lot of not my issue. That's yours. So let's carry on and let's start this wild ride that you guys have been begging me for. You guys are wanting me to stir the pot. You guys want me to stir the pot, and here I am stirring the pot. The Queen of the Dead. All right, let's talk about Bobby Mackey's. Okay. Bobby Mackey's. Oh, man. So it's in this little small town. It was Wilder, Kentucky. And, it was a nightclub. It became super famous. Ghost Adventures went there. It was dubbed the most haunted nightclub in America, and it has a super dark history. Murders, suicides, prostitution, satanic rituals. It's just a hot mess. And I think that unless you have been there, which I have or was, you're not going to understand what it was like. And even Wanda Kay, bless her heart, bless her soul. Let's just back up. Okay, legend has it the building had the basement. It was obviously a slaughterhouse in the 19th century. And it was served as a dumping ground for, animal remains, human remains. If people wanted, we're talking gangster times, right? Like you want to get rid of somebody. I know this slaughterhouse type of thing. It's right next to a river. The slaughterhouse had, the perfect exit. It literally dumped the blood river from the slaughterhouse into the river. So, I mean, you put human remains down there, no one's going to find it. Nobody's going to find it. And, we know who dubbed it as Portal of Hell. And of course that it was just such a different time. You think back to Ghost Adventures OG era. I was just talking about this with Josh on the phone. And, OG era of Zach was like greasy hair and biceps. He got all of the girls hooked in. The girls wanted to be with him and the guys wanted to be him, and then you have all these replica men come out that are like, I'm this tough guy just like Zach and I'm going to taunt the demons and you come up out of that hole and get me. And it created a new genre of investigators that came out thinking that in order to connect with the dark side, you had to be the tough guy. And that personification wouldn't work anymore. It's evolved, right? I mean, even his show has evolved. I mean, I know he loves the demons and the dark side, but that's that is where he's plugged into energetically, right? But because for the time being that he was provoking, it caused a surge for Bobby Mackey's. Good for them. I'm sure that they made a lot of money, not only investigations, but also tours. Wanda K was letting people come in. People were going to Wilder, Kentucky just to experience the nightclub, feeling. And, over the years, the paranormal activity just kept getting worse. It was like visitors and staff report all these strange occurrences. There's phantom steps, disembodied voices, physical attacks. Some believe the spirit of Johanna, who's a dancer, stripper. She tragically took her own life, sort of Romeo and Juliet style. They think she's still there. And then others point to Satanists. Satan. It's Satan and demons. Let me make sure I pronounce this person right. Alonzo, Alonzo, Walling, and Scott Jackson, who allegedly performed rituals near the infamous well. We'll get there. Okay, I'm just chomping at the bit. I'm on my soapbox today. Okay, so if you don't want to hear me on my soapbox, I suggest you leave now. Because once I get on that soapbox, I'm not getting off of it. Okay, I want to talk about Wanda K. I know Wanda K. I loved her, bless her heart. She was the caretaker of the facility, and she was the heart sort of Bobby Mackey's, and she was there for years, and she shared all these stories. And I mean, when I was there, my God, she talked about all of the experiences that she'd had, and she did visitations where she would take tour groups in, and eventually she ended up getting cancer, and she was dedicated to sort of preserving the legacy. I think she wrote some books. She really dug deep on the history of Bobby Mackey's, where I don't think it had ever been public before, because she lived there. It's a small town, and so she was able to really dig into the archives. And her passing shocked everybody. It was the end of an era. It was like the whole community, mourned her loss. Not only the community of Wilder, but the paranormal community. I have a theory that she was just letting anybody investigate in there. You know what I mean? Like, I have friends far and in between that would let me know the kind of people she was letting in to investigate. And she was letting people do rituals. She was just letting people do whatever they wanted. If they were willing to pay the $4,000 to be there overnight and investigate, she didn't really care what they did. Energetically speaking, if you were summoning demons, like, I have a different opinion on demons, okay? And the main reason is soapbox. It feels so comfortable being up here. I haven't been on this soapbox in a long time. It feels so good to be back. How do I word this? Do I just say it? I don't think demons are exactly what we think they are. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm not saying they can't hurt and harm people. I think that they are the negative projection of mankind. So they do exist. And it's that same theory. If enough people, especially with the Bible and, making people in fear that way, if enough people believe in Beelzebub, whatever, then he's going to exist, right? You know what I mean? Like, I'm only using that because of Sabrina. Just thinking that. Wasn't he Lord of the Flies or something? Whatever. Enough people believe in that entity, then he's going to exist. However, it's up to you and your personal mirrored projection on how much power you give it. So I really think there's a reason why I don't connect with the demonic stuff. I can't. I've tried. I want to experience it, and I just can't. My energy is way too high vibrational for it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I've also said in the past I have theories. I've witnessed possessions. And how do people get possessed? Very weak-minded if you're asking it or allowing it to enter into your body. And honestly, it still goes back to fear. It is the fear projection. If you are that scared of it, you're going to manifest it more. You're going to experience it more because your energy is on that level. If you have enough people in the basement of Bobby Mackey's that have paid the $4,000 that are summoning demons, then something's going to happen. Something is going to happen. And you have poor little Wanda Kay, who was in that place day in and day out, and she ended up getting cancer. And, I think of cancer or like severe illnesses as like some sort of like fear or dark manifestation that has manifested within you. Possibly like even a fear within yourself, of projection of yourself, like you don't think you're good enough, or the anxiety and the depression, it just causes your cells to go crazy. Of course, there's external factors too, like, our food is poisoned and water is poisoned and everything else. But, it does make you wonder if she's working in Bobby Mackey's day in and day out with these dark energies, how did she develop cancer? And was it karma for just allowing anyone to come in there? Was she under spiritual attack? Was she actually not as strong as she portrayed herself to be in the public because she developed that? I'm sorry, but if you're working in a place like that with not only dark energy, but with thousands, potentially millions of people that have seen the shows about how haunted this location is and demons, and now they believe in it. So you have all that energy funneling into that location now. I cannot help but think that she was probably under some sort of spiritual attack. And it's really sad, I was shocked to hear that they tore Bobby Mackey's down. And this just happened recently. It was the demolition of, a paranormal landmark. It's like a chapter ending in our paranormal world a little bit. It's a little eerie. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like the phase one of paranormal entering the world has now ended, and now we're in phase two. And the stories, experiences live on, but it's like etched in the memories of those who have visited. And I had a lot of people, want to know my opinion on Bobby Mackey's, because a lot of people haven't been there. They don't want to go there. They don't want to experience it. It was a funnel of strange events that I experienced and feelings. And I've talked about it before. I do not believe the building was up to code. If I'm being honest, the building needed to be demolished a long time ago. I went through that place up and down with Wanda. Like, she took me on a private tour. She took me in places she didn't take people. And I was there, I think 2013, which was after Paranormal Challenge. She had saw me on Paranormal Challenge. I was in Kentucky for Scarefest. And then I had emailed her and she got in touch with me and she's like, I'd love for you to just come by yourself. So my dad actually went with me and took pictures and photos and stuff. My dad was very, he was a believer, but he was on the skeptical side of believing, where like, I'm the kind where I'm like, if you tell me it's haunted, I believe you. Where my dad's like, I have to see it to believe it. And my dad had some really strange experiences there too. And it's a very interesting memory that I have of my dad and I together. Oh, what did you do with your dad? Oh, my dad and I hang out at Bobby Mackey's together. You should try it sometime. But it was a messed up building. Like, my dad's a contractor. Okay. He's done contractor work for years. He's built houses. He used to do sheet metal. Like it was like an art to him, and my dad was like, this place is like falling down. Like, at any given moment, you go underneath, you walk in the club. It's kind of on top of stilts. Literally it's on stilts. And once you go underneath, you realize that, there's one little section that was probably the original slaughterhouse. And they've sort of just torn walls down over time and rebuilt and made it bigger and added more stilts and rebuilt. Like, there's just no code. It was not built on code at all. And I was very nervous walking through the club itself because, and even the stairs, there's a stairway where they had this, I think it's the third floor where the gangster's apartment was. And supposedly he was just so angry that, he would violently throw things at you. They still had all of his trophies from like the 50s or 60s, whatever it was. I really suggest getting Wanda's book if it's still available out there, because she had all the history in there of Bobby Mackey's. And that he supposedly, unalived women in the bathtub. The bathtub was still there. It looked like just stained, dried blood in the tub from the 60s. He supposedly killed multiple women that would make him angry in there. So it was, then you go the backside, which is where women have been pushed down the stairs. Like, it was just, you go up in the rafters. Wanda let me go up in the rafters where Johanna, like the dancers would drop down on stage for the stripping, and it was like so hot and heavy up there. Like, I got a migraine. And then they had the dancing stations underneath, and it was just, underneath was so depressing, but it was a cluster F underneath. And my dad, being a contractor, was like, how is this place even still standing? I remember walking through the club and the stairs, and even my dad, and you could feel the floorboards falling in. Like, it was like walking on marshmallows through the whole thing. It was not steady in some places. And my dad was like, this floor is about to give out. And the whole thing was on stilts. It was not coated. And even my dad was like, I don't know how someone hasn't had like a legal liability injury here because of how old this building is. And it's not up to code. And I mean, it's Wilder, Kentucky. It's like 2 or 3 blocks long. That's it. So they're not going to have codes like here in Vegas. You know what I mean? So it was just strange. There was like half-built things. There was this like, it looked like a little fortress or castle that had been built under the stilts. Someone didn't finish it, and they had like a gnome that lived in there. And I saw it peek over the thing, and where the hell did that come from? Like, so not only do they have the women that were killed that were strippers, they have gangsters that are still there. They have native and indigenous that are guarding the land. They had little kids that died in the slaughterhouse that fell in the fat and melted to death. Probably the butchers are still hanging out. It was like spiritual warfare was going. And now you have like weird, fae spirits. You have like this weird gnome chilling in the corner. Like, it was very confusing. They had another area that was like dirt underneath the stilts. And Wanda would be like, if you stand here long enough and watch, it was very dark. You can see 2 spirits rolling around together, and one of them chokes the other one out and like dies. And it just replays. So it was like residual. Some people are like messaging me, aren't you upset Bobby Mackey's got torn down? No, it was a hazard. It needed to go. And, some places are not savable. Like, it's not, I don't think it was Bobby Mackey that really built onto it. This is years and years and years of people building onto it incorrectly, improperly. For safety precautions, for the sake of Wanda, let's pray that those spirits went home and they don't come back. No guarantees, right? No guarantees. So while Bobby Mackey's has technically closed its doors forever, we can always move on to another infamous one that is the Conjuring House, which is even more drama. It's unclear if Bobby Mackey's is going to rebuild. There's rumors that it's not. There's rumors that it is. I don't know if anyone, it was supposed to be demolished in March. It didn't happen. It kept getting delayed. It finally got demolished. So I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. Do I think it's appropriate to rebuild? I mean, if someone rebuilds on that land, in my opinion, or at least in the same spot, they're just going to be trying to drive more paranormal traffic in. You know what I mean? There was so much trauma done on that one piece of land. Let it rest. For God's sake, close the portals and let it rest. And now we're moving on to the drama with the Conjuring House. The Conjuring House, or the Harrisville farmhouse of Rhode Island, is most infamous from the Warrens' in 2013 film The Conjuring. So we're going to talk the Perron family and their experiences from the 1970s. And it introduced the world to, the woman that was accused of doing witchcraft. It's just a hot mess, too. The house was built in the 18th century, and it has a long, eerie history as well. The Warrens did an investigation. They became famous off of it. the family eventually asked the Warrens to leave and not come back. So no one really knows what's going on. I've done podcasts where I talk about how Ed specifically was kind of a monster and sketch and an opportunist, and I didn't like Ed. I do think Lorraine was legit as far as her abilities went. However, I think she was very fake as far as being this perfect religious person when her husband had a 15-year-old girlfriend living with them. But that's neither here nor there. I won't get on that soapbox today. But the house was built in the 18th century, and, it's 8 generations of the Arnold family and trauma. You know what I mean? Like, the East Coast is known for having some of the worst trauma from, the immigration of, taking over from the indigenous, and just, we don't really know everything, right? We never really know the whole story. Now, the Arnold family were this owned in generations. There's been plenty of deaths and strange, mysterious deaths around these circumstances. So I don't think this was related to a witch necessarily. I think this was related to like family curses, and the Perron family ended up levitating out of their beds, and spirits were appearing, and there were violent attacks from unseen forces. And I'm going to reference it again. This is famous from the Warrens. This is famous from the Conjuring film. It has been seen and heard of by millions of people. If there wasn't something there then, there sure as hell is now, because millions of people have now believed it to exist, therefore it does, right? We don't know what's there. We have no idea what's there. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated the property, claiming it was one of the most malevolent places they've ever encountered. And Kat went there. We're going to touch on that for a second. Kat did go when the first owners had it. There was a veteran that was, I don't even know their names. To be honest, I might have put it in here. I don't know. The veteran didn't like that, him, his wife, and his teenage daughter were living there. People were trespassing at night, trying to take pictures on the property. No shit. No shit. This is my shocked face. My jaw is not on the floor. Do you know why? It's the Conjuring House. So you should have done something to protect the family, like build a fortress around it or hire 24/7 security. So this veteran husband, and I know because I was married to a veteran, is paranoid and starts pulling his gun on people, threatening to shoot people. And I get it. I know that it's private property, but you're living and owning one of the most famous locations in the world. What the hell did you expect was going to happen? Why are you shocked? You should have purchased that property knowing you were going to have to hire security and gates and fences. There's no question about it. No shit. So anyway, Kat went, and it was just very dysfunctional. She said, she went on a whim one day to do a tour. At the time they had really big dogs. I think she said they had German shepherds. They had been pooping all over this massive acreage of land. No one had picked up the dog poop. They had told her she could go walk the property, and every 2 steps she had to take, it was just dog poop everywhere. It was just run down. It was not taken care of. And he was severely having some PTSD issues. And, let's start there. Let's start there. We're not going to make fun of anyone with mental health ever, but we're definitely going to suggest anyone with mental health issues, any sort of history, I'm going to say there's a 99.99% chance that you should not be living in a haunted location. And I shouldn't have to be saying that. I shouldn't have to tell you that, okay? If you have PTSD from war, if you have depression, if you have anxiety, if you're bipolar, schizophrenic especially, I think you should be hiring an intaker, an innkeeper to watch that property for you, a security company. You should not be living in the Conjuring House 24/7. I feel like I shouldn't have to say that. I feel like that should be a duh. But here we are. Here we are repeating it. So in 2019, the property was sold for nearly $1 million. And it was sparking rumors of speculation because, there was a potential involvement of Zach Bagans, who ultimately we know didn't purchase it. But the owners were making this big stink and embarrassment online saying, yeah, we've had, the property and the business estimated at, $1 million. And we're not going to let Zach buy it. Who the hell else is going to buy it for $1 million? Do you know anybody in the paranormal community that could buy a haunted location for $1 million? There's really only one successful person in paranormal that has that kind of money. So, let's not cut your throat before you're standing. It's the jealousy. It sounds like Tony Spera all over again. I'm going to try to get off that soapbox because I could really tangent. I'm going to really stay focused this time as much as I can. My eyes just rolled back into my head and I saw my brain. Oh, the jealousy that he gets is just, it's hilarious to watch. Instead, the property was sold to a new owner who was so much better than Zach. She, purchased this property. She was pretty much not in the spotlight initially. She's been pretty quiet until the controversy started. And this person has essentially ran this entire business into the ground. It's not even just a business. It's just the haunted location itself. Like, this is why, even selling a paranormal property from the first couple that had it, you shouldn't just sell it to the first owner or the first person that can purchase it. You need to make sure that they are willing to safeguard and preserve the history. Like, it's a freaking historical landmark at this point. You're just going to let the first person waltz in that has the money because you're just thinking about the money. You're not thinking about respecting the property, respecting the entities, respecting the trauma that it has been through. So you're just going to let someone come in and buy it without really getting to know them and making sure that this business you have built up, you're handing it over with good hands and with good faith. This new owner it's just had nothing but public feuds. It's erupted with Jason Hawes. I've seen it. Don't send me the links. I've watched it. I've heard it. I've seen it. I'm bored. I don't want to see it. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not only Jason. It's these paranormal, reporters online that are reporting on this. And we don't really know anything about this owner, right? Like, we don't know anything about her. And it initially started with everyone making fun of her mental health. And it's just common sense to me. It's common sense that no one should be living in a haunted location 24/7. Even if you have perfect mental health, you should be hiring an innkeeper for the evenings. Like, if you don't have the money to have two homes, this is my home and this is my business, then you should not buy that house. You shouldn't buy that. Because you shouldn't be living there. That's crazy. Are you okay? Do I really need to have this discussion right now? I am a seasoned investigator, a seasoned producer. I want to own haunted locations someday, and I would never live in somewhere like the Conjuring House. With all of my knowledge and experience, I would never. Even if I went in there and experienced nothing, I still would not move my shit in. Same with Amityville. Whoever's living up there, I don't even know how you're surviving, but that's none of my business. Invite me over for tea. I'd love to experience it. God, it just gets uglier and uglier. And like, I understand to a point. Like, Jason first started out defending because he was having feuds with her. He was supposed to go there to investigate. Then they were saying nasty things back and forth. Let's just be real. You know what I mean? And on the other side, she was doing some bad stuff to the employees. There was allegations of unpaid wages. There was some rumor that a paranormal group had paid her $4,000 to access the property. And once they got there to investigate, they were denied entry and no refunds. I don't know what happened with that. I mean, hopefully they disputed it with their credit card company. So in a way, I understand that we need to make the paranormal community aware. Hey, don't spend $4,000 and your time and money and effort to go, to Rhode Island, because when you get there, you're not going to be able to do anything, right? This person is screwing people out of money. Okay, I hear you. She's supposedly been, reported to the Better Business Bureau. It's gotten really deep, and like the disputes have sort of tarnished the property's reputation at this point. Leaving many to question its future. And this is why I see the paranormal community is dysfunctional. I understand that Jason is wanting to make the paranormal community aware of this, but he didn't really start coming out until later saying, I think she's clearly having a mental health issue. I knew that from the beginning. Why did it take so long to figure that out? I honestly think it's also publicity. Jason doesn't have a lot going on right now. He needs attention. to keep his name out there. And so he's involving himself in this. And it's just like, it's embarrassing and sad. Like, it's embarrassing and sad. Like, get your YouTube channel going. You know, you have more money than I do, hopefully, from all the series and episodes you've done. Can't you hire a post-production crew to go do some independent filming? I mean, hell, Nick Groff and his wife just joined OnlyFans. I don't know what they're doing on there, nor do I want to know. But at least they're trying to rake in some money to do something with something. You know what I mean? Do something. Do something rather than stir the pot. So, the paranormal community is embarrassing. This is why I want nothing to do with any of them. It's embarrassing. So fast forward, this is where I finally decided to talk about this, is the controversy didn't stop there. And the state finally stepped in and they uncovered that the owner has not been paying for workman's comp insurance. So she has daily state fines that are up to $2,000 a day that are like mandatory mandated. And I think it was like October 7th November 7th or 11th. Don't quote me on that. Check the dates. She was basically given an ultimatum by the state that she had to provide workman's comp insurance proof, and she did not. So the state went in and shut the whole damn business down. And oh my God, it's like as the worm turns, is the dark energy of the Conjuring House. It's now extending past the supernatural into the 3D. I don't know, man. I don't know what you want me to say. There are some strange people in paranormal. And I'm talking on the business side. I am talking on the paranormal investigator side. And I am talking on the spiritual side. I've told you, be very weary of psychics or people that approach you online or even in public who say they're psychic. A true psychic or medium would not just walk up to anybody. And if they did, it will be a free reading. They're not going to ask you for money. So there's some really sketch people in this industry that you really need to be aware of and have discernment. And I'm not just talking about the psychics and mediums. I'm talking about investigators, famous and non-famous. I'm talking about business owners, famous and non-famous. Use your 3D and your third eye to see through these people. And be careful with who you commune with in the industry, because this is embarrassing. That's really all I have to say. Not one side of it, the whole thing. The whole thing is just embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like, if everyone would learn to put their own energy into themselves and their own goals, rather than be worried about what the F everyone else is doing, you might actually get somewhere in life. That's all I'm saying. You know, Bobby Mackey's and the Conjuring House both have, a unique place in my heart and the paranormal world. And we can't forget, their controversies that remind us of these haunted locations are just as complex as the actual hauntings themselves. And use your discernment. I want to hear what you guys think about the scandals and these locations. I know this isn't the only scandals and locations. These are just the biggest ones that we've seen or heard of. Have you visited either of them? What do you feel like the energy is? What's your opinion? I really want to know. I want to know what you guys think about this whole thing. My community usually believes similarly to me. I think the one thing I want to take away from all of this is mental health is a real thing. Just because they're not in a wheelchair doesn't mean it's not dangerous. Just because someone can buy $1 million property does not mean they are mentally well. Just because someone can buy $1 million property does not mean they understand or know how to run a business. To purchase $1 million business or property, you need a full team of people behind you, which means wages. So she needs to be more than, to me, it sounds like she had $1 million, like a life savings, and that was it. And couldn't afford anything else. Couldn't afford insurance, proper insurance. Couldn't afford, to hire staff that she needed. Not only, she needed an innkeeper, and she needed a maid, and she needed security, and she needed to build a fence, and she needed a PR team. Apparently she just killed and blew up the entire social media. Just because you're a millionaire doesn't mean you're smart. Just because you're a millionaire doesn't mean that you're a business person. I don't know how she obtained that kind of money. God only knows. It's really none of our business. However, no matter what the case is, the way she was speaking and communicating online, even in the beginning, it was quite clear that there was some sort of a mental health issue. And I am thoroughly disappointed in the entire community, famous or not, reporters or not in the paranormal community. I am disappointed in you. If you were mocking and making fun of someone who was clearly having a mental health issue, shame on you. And shame on this community. And this is why there are problems in this community. This is why I am embarrassed sometimes to be a part of this community. This is why I am so independent and remove myself from this community. Because you guys are, not my fans, but anyone else, you guys, and the bad ones, are so anxious to tear anyone down, to attempt to get to the top, that includes someone suffering from a mental health break. That's shameful. That is embarrassing. And that is not a community that I want to be a part of. That is not people I want to be friends with. That is not people I want to work with. I am very blessed and lucky to have my tight-knit community, to have Josh and Kat, whom I trust. They see this from the outside and they also understand where the trust needs to come from. So next time you start idolizing people in the community, please use your discernment. No one's perfect, it is true. However, making fun of mental health is inexcusable. Oh, I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. I know you've been wanting me to talk about this for a while, and I knew that it reached its peak when the state went in and shut it down. I don't know if it's back open or not yet. I don't know what's going on. The social media accounts tend to be shut down and then brought back public. I don't pay attention to it enough. This is going to sound really mean, but I don't care. I don't want to check on those social media accounts and attach my energy to that person or that location. It sounds like it's such a mess. I'm not interested. I don't check Jason Hawes' social media. It's a mess. I'm not interested. Okay, it's very simple. So for those of you asking me, yes, I know the gist of it. Am I checking on it daily? No, because I don't care. Because as a lesson to anyone watching, I am mirroring my own reality. I am focused on me, myself, my goals, Ghost Girl Diaries, and nothing else. If I worry about what everyone else is doing, I'm not going to get anything done myself. I'm not going to accomplish my own goals. And I really hope anyone listening will do the same. I think that I'm going to be doing uploads on Thursdays. I've been watching analytics. I'm actually starting up the Patreon again. If you want to subscribe to it, I have a free trial on there set up for you guys. I'm going to be doing subscriptions on YouTube and everywhere else as well to get it going. I'm going to be doing private live sessions on Patreon. I'm going to let people have access to the podcast early on Patreon and then later here. I really want to embody community. You guys have been complaining about community, and I thought to myself, okay, if they are wanting to find a healthy paranormal community, we are going to have to cultivate that ourselves. I have the Discord channels up and running, so I'm going to link those below. I have the Patreon page up and running, and I don't want to make this just about me. I want to cultivate a community together where we can find like-mindedness in each other without the toxicity of dog eat dog and build each other up. And it's not only about me, it's about you guys finding each other, community within each other. So please join the Discord chat. I'm going to start posting on there daily. Also Patreon, I will be posting on there daily as well. This one, we're going to have a lighter topic next week. I just knew this was something that needed to be discussed. And I hope that I said everything you were hoping I was going to say. But let me just say, 3rd week in back at the podcast, it feels really good. Signing off, hauntingly yours, the Queen of the Dead. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Ghost Girl Diaries. Thank you so much for joining me in my crypt. If you loved what you heard, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the ghostly adventures continue. And also don't forget to follow me on all social media platforms. You can search for Crystal Leandra or Ghost Girl Diaries. Please support me on both. This is where you can catch exclusive content, behind the scenes footage, and stay up to date on all things paranormal and glam. And as always, stay curious, stay fearless, and stay spooky. And I'll catch you next time on Ghost Girl Diaries, where the dead never rest, and neither do we. Until then, my ghoulish friends, sweet screams.